Hi, Dave here again, as we continue our tour of Scotland and travel to the Inverness area. As I mentioned last time, we are going to visit some of my heritage as well as a beautiful city, the city of Inverness, and have a little bit of mystery as well. From downtown Edinburgh, we traveled out to the airport to pick up our car to travel across the country. And I had to start to learn how to travel on the wrong side of the road. I was a little bit concerned about it, but I seemed to catch on pretty well. Now, before we get going, don't forget, if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you to all of those who have already subscribed. We traveled up the East Coast and made a brief stop in Aberdeen, and then we continued on towards Inverness. A little ways before Inverness, we found our way to Petty Church. It was a small country church, but we were told it had a number of Macintoshes buried there from the wars in the 1700s. We found it, and there was a cemetery beside it, but all the gravestones were from 1900s, though the church itself looked much older. There could have been an area where there were a number of unmarked graves, but there was no one there to ask, so we kept on going to our next stop, Culloden. Culloden, the moor where a huge decisive battle between the Jacobites, the Scottish soldiers, and the English took place. The weather had been off and on rain all day, and when we got there, it started again. It sort of seemed fitting given the place that it was, where death befell a huge number of people. It took place on April 16th, 1746. There were more than 400 Macintoshes killed on that day, and that just from one clan, plus all the other clans and the English. At this battle, the Jacobites were defeated. We wandered around the grounds in the rain. We could see the red flags where the English lined up for the battle, and a distance away there were blue flags where the Jacobites lined up. There was a large stone column to commemorate the battle, and stones set up at the heads of each mass grave with the clan's name marked on the stones. Here you can see the mass grave of the Macintosh clan with the memorial in the background. We also enjoyed seeing this old thatched roof house on the site, which came from that time period. There were also all the tourist trappings with a store and information building. This stop was a mixed blessing because of the rain. Next, we made a stop not far away to Clava Cairn. This site is one of the standing stone sites in Scotland. No one really knows why they were made the way they were, but most believe it had a spiritual worship significance. This site is a little different, as it also had these 3 donut-shaped mounds of stones with a walkway into the center as part of the site. The rain had not stopped, but we wandered around anyway. This site was also a part of the story in Outlander, so you never know what might happen when you go there. Trudy seemed to disappear when she touched the stone, though she did reappear later. After wandering around and getting wet, we decided we had enough of the rain, and we headed for our hotel in Inverness, the Premier Inn. We really liked this hotel, as it had a very nice room, and we were staying here 3 nights. It also had a great restaurant with really good food at a decent price. I got a kick out of the talking elevator. Mind the door. Door opening. Mind the door. Door closing. Going up. It gave me a good chuckle. Our room didn't have a good view, but then none of the hotels we stayed at did. But the people running it were very friendly. After a good night's sleep, we headed for Moy, a small village not far south of Inverness. It really was just 2 or 3 houses. This was where the Macintosh Castle used to be, and the root of the Macintosh clan. Today, all that is left is Moy Hall, with the Macintosh crest carved into a stone above the front door. It is now privately owned and lived in, so we couldn't see the inside or go past the gates. We spent some time here imagining what it might have been like to live here back in the day. Not far away was a memorial to the 30th chief of the Macintosh clan, Lachlan Macintosh. On the plaque it says, "He loved this place. It was a wonderful view out over the fields that was his home." After spending some time here, we headed back to Inverness and spent the day in the city. We walked downtown from the hotel, about a 1-kilometer walk, and then toured around the city. We walked past the city hall, which had a unique old look, then up past and around the castle. It had been closed for a couple of years for restoration, but was open again. It was a very nice castle, right in the middle of the city, above the Ness River. Then we were off again. We had lunch at a food truck parked by the river. Then after lunch we walked along the Ness River on one side and then back on the other. It was a beautiful walk, but our legs were saying enough, so we headed back to the hotel. On the way, we stopped for a coffee in one of the Costa coffee shops, which are all over the country, and then made it back to the hotel in late afternoon. It was a full day. Then we finished the day off with a delicious meal at the restaurant in the hotel. The next morning, Trudy needed to do a little laundry, so while she was doing that, I checked out the downtown area a little more. Then we headed down the east side of Loch Ness to take a cruise and see if we could find Nessie. On the way, we stopped for a few minutes at the bottom end of the loch, at a beach area, and from there we could look right down the entire length of the loch. Not that we could see the other end, but we could see a long way. Then we drove on to Clansman Harbour, where we could take a Jacobite Loch Ness cruise. We got our tickets and then had a little lunch before our cruise started. It was a fairly nice day, and so the cruise was really enjoyable. It took us down to the Urquhart Castle, which was a delight to see, though it really was just a ruins. The boat stopped here and let some people off and picked up some, and then headed back to where we started. Those that got off here paid an extra fee to tour the ruins. I was looking for Nessie the whole trip, but I didn't see him. They promised us that she was around. I even asked the captain of our boat, but there was no sign of her. But it was a beautiful cruise and afternoon. We then headed back to our hotel as it was late afternoon and we were moving on the next day. We had another delicious meal at the restaurant in the hotel and then spent the night in our room packing and getting ready to move on. I trust you enjoyed this video. On the next video, we are going to travel to the Isle of Skye. It is an amazing part of the country, and we could have spent twice as much time there, and we had 3 days. So do come back in a couple of weeks as we continue our tour of Scotland.